Welcome to the Fitness Oracle, where we have real conversations with real people just like you. I am your host, John Katsavos, and today we have a remarkable guest joining us. Please welcome John Brewer Jr., an Army Special Forces veteran with over a decade of experience in defending life, family, and country. John understands the importance of self-reliance and has made it his mission to empower others, enabling them to live healthy and thriving lives. Today, we'll be delving into some captivating topics with John. From the perspective of a vet, an Army Special Forces veteran, we'll explore self-defense and personal development, uncovering the transferable skills that can transform your life. We'll also dive into the journey of finding purpose and discuss John's upcoming book, Fight for Your Best Life, which promises to be an incredible resource. Are you ready to take your life to the next level? Then I have an exciting opportunity for you. Join the Fitness Oracle newsletter today and gain exclusive access to a range of incredible perks. As a subscriber, you'll be the first to know about our new episodes, getting early access before they're released to the public. But wait, there's more. As a subscriber, you'll also receive a personal one-on-one phone call with me where we'll discuss your fitness and lifestyle goals and how we can help you achieve them. Plus, you'll gain free access to our private community where we hold engaging community calls to discuss the episodes and how you're applying the lessons to your life. And that's not all. As a member of our exclusive community, you'll gain access to exciting programs that we're launching that are designed to support your journey towards health and wellness. So don't wait any longer. Join the Fitness Oracle newsletter today and embark on your transformative journey towards a healthier, happier you. Get ready for an incredible conversation with John Brewer Jr. and get ready to transform your life. John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. I heard an episode with you recently, a couple of weeks ago. It was released with a friend of mine, the Feminine Ninja. How was
Oh yeah,
that episode?
yeah. Actually, yeah, I enjoyed doing that interview because she's really good at conversation and the back and forth, and she's also very passionate about the topics that she covers. So it's actually a very nice interview to do, and also she had a little bit of background and some of the stuff that I was talking about, so it's easy to kind of have that back and forth and things like that. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. I really enjoyed listening to it and brought up a
Right.
lot of interesting extra talking points on my end because, like I said in the intro, you are an Army Special Forces veteran, Green
Mm-hmm.
Beret. So first and foremost, thank you for your service.
No
What
problem.
got you interested in joining the Army in the first place?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of an interesting story just because growing up, I actually wasn't interested in joining the military. Actually, I had a stigma about the military growing up and, thinking that it was really just the last resort for people, who couldn't get jobs in the normal, you know, type of job market and stuff like that. And, maybe that was just based off, my ignorance. And then at the same time, which I mean, for uh, certain portions of the military, I do think that they could probably do a little bit better when they come to recruiting and developing their personnel. But that's a kind of a different story. I mean, obviously, all of us could do better. But at the same point in time, when I got to a certain age around college, I knew that I wanted to do something more than what I was going to school for, which was actually at the time personal training, which is not a bad profession by any means. But at the same time, I knew that I wanted to do something that had a little bit more impact on the world rather than, individuals, at the time anyway. Obviously, I'm kind of diverting back to that in a weird way, kind of ironic actually. But yeah, so what it ended up being is a personal trainer back at my hometown gym told me about Green Berets because I actually had no idea what the Green Berets were. I mean, I knew that special operation units existed and things of that nature, but like I said, I was very ignorant to the military and didn't really understand, how as certain specialized units operate and things like that. But once I figured out what they did and how they operated, I was definitely very interested right at the start. And actually, at the time, I was also in the process with a police department. I was in their hiring process, and just by circumstance and things of that nature, I got pushed to sign with the military, which was obviously probably one of the better life decisions that I've ever had. And honestly, I do believe in, obviously I believe in the mission of what the military does. It's a very important mission set, and it's very important for people to fill those positions to be able to, especially if you're willing to do so. And so I decided to join the military, and from there, I had signed a X-ray contract, which is it's kind of like a contract that gives people that are coming straight out of civilian life a chance to go to selection right out of basic training after you meet all the requirements. And then from there, once I got selected, I was put into the Q qualification course, which is then shortened to Q course. And then from there, started my career in special forces. And like I said, it's really developed me as a person, especially in who I am now, obviously. And and I really do value the lessons learned and the training that I received and the life experiences that I gained. Because one, it's very unique, and then two, it did help me kind of gain a perspective that I would never have gained otherwise.
How did that translate into being a personal trainer and leading a personal trainer's lab? Because I know how hard it is as a personal trainer. It's not. It is a fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's a fulfilling job, but it's a
Yeah.
very financially draining job as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I actually never got into the personal training itself. I worked in gyms, especially at the recreational center at the university that I was at, and I enjoyed that. Obviously, at the time, I enjoyed being in the gym. I enjoyed that culture. I still do, but obviously, I don't work, in the gym or anything like that. But at the same time, it's funny because at heart, I am an introvert, and as a personal trainer, you really have to be an extrovert, or at least be able to turn it on, every single day and be engaged with your clients. And, at the time I didn't really have that. I'm better at it now just because obviously with life experiences, you grow a little bit more. But at the same time, obviously as an introvert, I get drained with, kind of social interaction. And I mean, it is what it is. But at the same time, I know that, the personal training aspect of it, like I said, not only do you have to be knowledgeable of, the subject matter with building programs and really tailoring the fitness side to the individual client, but then also you got to be engaging, you got to be fun and stuff like that. So it's so it's not just a surface level profession. It's definitely very deep. And then, like I said, I'm not jumping into personal training, but at the same time, coaching and mentorship, I am kind of borrowing from, the things I learned in college, and then obviously what I learned in the military, and adopting that to what I'm trying to do now.
Very cool. Well, I'm smiling and I'm laughing inside because I'm an introvert as well,
Yeah.
and I know
Oh,
exactly what you're talking about. It is at the end of the day when you're finished with all your clients, I'm just dead. Like spiritually, I'm dead. Like there's
yeah.
nothing left in me. Like the drive
Yeah.
home, I should be
Yeah.
taking the highway home, but I take the city just reconnect
Mm.
with myself because it is so
Yeah.
draining.
Oh, yeah.
How do you recharge yourself when it comes to working with clients on a daily basis and getting yourself drained like that? I'm sure there's been moments where you just said, you know what, screw this. I just want to get a 9 to 5 job and just zone out.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, when it comes, it's weird because I've shifted since I've been out of active duty to where used to, the gym time and even running and things like that would kind of reset me because I'd put music in and just go. And even like driving, music was really my kind of shifting me from one emotion to the next, or gearing me up for the next event. And I still love music, but the weird thing about it is I now do all that stuff silent to where I am just with my thoughts and I let my thoughts just kind of roam. And maybe I don't know. And like I said, I still listen to music from time to time, but if I'm in the gym or which I haven't ran in a long time, not long distance anyway. And so I do think that for running, I would have to rely on music. But really what I'm getting at is that I think really I just decompress through my thoughts and I don't try to think on any particular subject. I just allow whatever comes up to come up and then I contemplate it for however long. And then normally that kind of goes away. And then, whatever else comes up is kind of what I tackle next. But it just gives me a good understanding of where my mind is at the time, and especially like if I'm stressed out, I stop almost everything that I do and I'm like, why am I stressed out right now? Because a lot of times it's not easy to really pinpoint, what is stressing you out. You just feel it and you're like, man, like what is making me angry right now, or what is making me anxious? And I really think about it and I kind of backtrack my day or my week and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And then I try to forget about it. And so that's kind of, every day, that if I'm having, a day where I feel drained or anxious or whatever it might be, I just try to do either a reset where I allow my brain to think about whatever it wants to, or I really pinpoint what it is and then say, you know what, that's not important right now. I'll just kind of move on, which obviously takes practice. And I'm not, I'm not saying I'm perfect at every single time because there are things that do linger, but at the same time, that's kind of how my strategy is right now. And that'll probably change in the future, but it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Touching up on the as being a Army Special Forces vet, um, I'm sure you have been taught multiple different types of self-defense systems. And you and I both know I've been in martial arts my entire life. I haven't served, so I don't know. I can't speak to that, but I know in martial arts they build up the self-confidence in yourself that is unmatched anywhere. And I'm sure that in being a veteran in the army, that's amplified tenfold. How do you teach that to people?
Well, really, the military as a whole, anyway, they're not ever going to call it self-defense or anything like that. Obviously it's most of the time it's called, well, in the army it's called basic soldier task and things of that nature. But really what the military is good at doing is creating that foundational mindset that you need to come to any crisis event or anything that's life-threatening. Because I don't think I don't think you'll be able to get anywhere else truly. I mean, unless you live through something and hopefully you don't. But at the same time, I really think the foundation of it is the mindset and really understanding that if you're going through something, especially especially in the military, especially training that isn't always fun and things like that, you just learn to deal with it. And sometimes that can turn unhealthy, but at the same time, if you're doing it the right way, you can learn how to you don't overthink a situation, or you also don't allow your emotions to consume you in the situation, and just allow to deal with it kind of emotionless in a way, and which truly you're more amped than anything, because obviously you want to be amped in that particular moment. And so what you do is you kind of enjoy it just a teeny bit. Now, obviously, it's not always 100% enjoyment. You're like, man, I'm really tired, or this, that, and other. But at the same time, you find enjoyment and kind of suffering, so to speak. And that's really where that kind of camaraderie comes with in the military, is that everybody's suffering together. And so just that togetherness, then I don't know, it's a weird thing to where it brings a sense of enjoyment, knowing that everybody is on the same page with you and everybody is going through the same stuff. And then that kind of, what I realized is that when I was developing when I was writing my book and developing these self-defense concepts, that really the a lot of it is foundationally with your mindset. And a lot of people skip over that and they want to go straight into, the physical training aspect of it too, and things of that nature, which is obviously important. But I do think that the foundation of it is your mindset. And you really have to understand, one, the implications of self-defense, because it is real life. We're not talking about movies. We're not talking about video games. We're talking about real life or death scenarios. And then two, you have to understand that, one, training that you're doing for personal development for self-defense should be enjoyable in some form or fashion, which a lot of it is. And then three, knowing that in that moment, when things are happening, no, you're not going to enjoy it like you would a game. Like if you're training for, if you're practicing for a game and that's enjoyable. Well, actually, a lot of people don't enjoy practice, but when you're playing that game, hopefully you're enjoying that game. And then, when it comes to a real life scenario, yes, you won't truly enjoy it, but you won't be also the flip side of that is you won't be you're prepared for it, and so you won't be anxious, you won't be afraid, you won't you'll have all the negative effects kind of go away, and then you only focus on what needs to be done. So long story short, it is really the mindset that people have to understand before they really even if it's just a basic overview of it, before they start really doing the physical training and things like that.
There's a couple of things that you said there, and I wanted to touch up on a couple of things there. The one main thing that I want to touch up on is the camaraderie that comes with knowing that you're all suffering together. I know this for a fact, not to the level that you've learned, but in martial arts, in the Sistema, that the martial arts that I practice, which is Sistema, which is military-based martial arts, not competitive, but like this is like based off of like real life and death situations that from Russian Spetsnaz. This is a training that I had. And it's like you really learn, when you're doing that one push-up for 10 minutes, not how many push-ups you can do in 10 minutes, but you're doing just one in 10 minutes, everybody's suffering together. And it brings this different level, like you said, of camaraderie. And it builds this tribe. And this is where I was trying to get to. How do you build that tribe for a person, let's say, who's going for a business meeting, trying to get a company from one position to the next level?
I think foundationally it all comes with alignment. You have to find the similarities, you have to find the common purpose, and then really align the individuals within that group, or several groups, or whatever that meant, whatever that is, to align with a specific purpose. And obviously that's where the military is good at, because the purpose is to protect the country, and from threats, foreign and domestic, and things of that nature. But at the same time, when it comes to even for businesses, obviously the business itself has a purpose, it has a mission, it has a vision, and everybody should align to that, no matter what their skill set, their job is. Obviously people have different jobs, but it all goes to the same purpose and goal. And so really, I do believe that that's you really have to understand where, just because people have different attributes, skill sets, personalities, things of that nature, and where all of that aligns to meet that one purpose and that one goal, and then run from it there. Because as soon as everybody has that alignment, I think that makes a lot things a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about a little bit about personal development. Personal development, I mean, every year it keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm curious, how does the Army and the Army training fall in line with personal development? I know it does. And I know a lot of people out there know it does, but I want to get your perspective on it and what your thoughts on it are.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, personal development. I mean, a lot of the personal development, obviously, in the military is going to be based off leadership and leadership development courses, leadership roles, and things of that nature. And I think really when it came to self-development for me, it goes back to being put in those unique training events or personal experiences that, create the, that kind of, what's the word, facilitates personal development within itself, not directly but indirectly. And so what I mean by that is, one school I went to was Ranger School, which is kind of notorious for being, kind of a suck fest, so to speak. And so it's 3 months long, is pretty much just as long as basic training. And I ended up going when I was already graduated from the Special Forces qualification course. So I'd already went from, going from one course and starting to get out of that, like, being sweaty out in the woods all the time, to more of a, direct type of training, to where, uh, you're not sucking all the time. There's periods of it, but not throughout the whole entire thing. So for me, it was an adjustment to get back into that type of training. But that's where, and I tell people this all the time, is when I graduated from Ranger School, the main thing I learned about was about myself. It's just getting back into that kind of environment, to where you're uncomfortable all the time. You barely were sleeping, we barely ate, and things of that nature, and just understanding who you are as a person. And I think truly that's where the personal development comes from in the military, is that you understand who you are as a person better by going through these events that, one, you wouldn't put yourself through, voluntarily. I mean, it is voluntarily in the military, but obviously there's a little bit of a push on the military side to put you through these, and then your ego kind of follows, because you don't want to fail out of something and have your reputation kind of tarnished. But at the same time, I think that's truly where it comes from, is you just learn about yourself, and the more you learn about yourself, the better you understand your strengths and weaknesses, and then you're able to either, try to what's the word, you try to diminish those weaknesses, either by development, or maybe, you mask them with strengths, or, whatever it might be. But I do think that's where the military's personal development is truly at, is, just going through these training events and finding out about yourself and who you really are.
Is it tough? Is it tough to switch from one training system to another? I know I asked this for another podcast guest that I had, who's multiple black belt in different systems, and it's like it almost seems like it's like you have this skill set that you mastered, and all of a sudden, boom, you're white belt again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, especially, it's funny too, because, there's a real ego boost when you graduate the Q course, and you have your special forces tab, and you can wear the green beret and stuff like that. And it's funny, I was telling someone about it as I was graduating, because I then was assigned to 5th Special Forces Group in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I told him I felt like I was graduating high school and then going to college, to where, at high school, you're like the big, as a senior, you're, the big fish. And then when you graduate and then you go to college, and you realize how small you are again. And that's how I felt at that time, is that, you really, yes, you do have the skills that you have acquired in whatever training you just went through, but you have to understand that there is always something out there that you're not going to be the best at, or, that you're not quite there yet with. And have that kind of humbleness to it when it comes down to it, to where once you finish one thing and go to the next, it's not going to be the same. You're no longer, you start from the beginning. So you have to have that humbleness and be like, look, I am the junior guy, or whatever it might be. And I have to, have the same mindset I had in the beginning, to where I'm here to learn, I'm here to train. And then obviously once you graduate or complete the course, you can have that little congratulations pat on the back, and then it's probably on to the next thing. And then it's just a cycle of humbleness and completing something.
Is humbleness one of what it sounds like humbleness is one of those transferable skills that you talk about. What other transferable skills have you identified in your past that you can take from mastering one aspect of life to this new next best thing?
Yeah. The main one is problem solving, because everybody does it. It's not it's not something that is the most innovative uh, process in the world, because obviously it's been done since the beginning of time. But I do think that the military, the training events, and the unique situations you get put into gives you a different perspective on problem solving. And then also, special forces is notorious for sometimes we have stuff that we need and sometimes we don't. And just having sometimes the limited resources, we have to problem solve in a very unique way, especially when there is something that needs to be done, somewhat immediately. So I think just being resourceful, that problem solving then transfers over to everyday life, to where it doesn't matter what you're going through, you have that problem solving capability and process, and you can implement it anything. And then on top of that is really the stress management type of not training, but experience, to where when you have gone through experiences that are truly life and death, your perspective on smaller inconveniences then changes, and you truly look at it as a smaller inconvenience, because you think in the back of your mind, well, at least I'm alive, breathing, I'm not hungry, I'm not tired, I'm not, hurting all over, and I'm not like on edge or anxious or anything like that. You truly look at small inconveniences for what they are, and that's very hard for people to understand if they haven't gone through certain experiences. And I'm not saying that people should go out and, kind of like, I think it was the same storyline of like what Batman went through, and where he wants to, denounce his, family lifestyle of rich and, being rich and kind of entitled. And he goes off and starts, traveling the world, and then starts training, and he's living as like a scoundrel pretty much. I don't think people should have to do that at all. But at the same time, that is truly where that perspective piece comes from. And that's where the transferable skills all kind of trickle down to where it's problem solving, stress management, all that type of stuff that then transfer into any aspect of life. And then obviously specifically to self-defense and handling crisis situations.
It's interesting. With problem solving. I want to stick on that a little bit because if you ask me personally, this society has gotten too soft. We
Yeah.
get some, we get some problem that comes into our life, and all of a sudden, woe is me, and the whole world is coming to an end, and that's it. It's
Yeah.
game over for us. How do you help people identify and help them move past that? Because it seems like the problems that we have are not as big as we make them to be,
Mhm.
and we have a tendency of, like I said earlier, woe is me, and the whole world's coming to an end. How do you help people
Yeah.
like not fall into that trap?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I actually ask people was, is this something that's going to still be around or still be on your mind 5 years from now? Or is it just going to be something that's on your mind 5 minutes from now? Because, a lot of our, inconveniences and troubles and things like that are only going to last a couple minutes, maybe a couple hours or a couple days, and they will not last your, years past. Actually, I just remember now, my dad, when I would get hurt, he would always say, well, that'll heal up before you get married. And it's kind of the same, mentality to where, when we go through certain problems and certain inconveniences, they're not, most 99% of them are not going to go past, a week long as you're not, obviously putting yourself back in that situation and kind of, put a little bit of self-suffering there. But yeah, that's pretty much what I ask people. And just give them that perspective that yes, although now in the moment you feel as if your world is falling apart, truly, as with everything, time heals all. But mostly, it's not time itself. It is obviously your mindset and the fact that you're saying, you know what, that's not too important to me anymore, and I'll just move on. And for some people, it takes a little bit longer to understand, and for those, it's a little bit quicker. But at the same time, it's just realizing that um, in your mind at that moment, yes, you are consuming your thoughts because of whatever emotion that is attached to it. But truly, life around you is still going on, and it will continue to. And so it's just kind of your decision to realize that and then move past it.
What about with bigger problems? Problems that uh, may last longer than a week, but not as long as 5 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, well, a good example of that would be my dad passed away right as I was graduating the Q course, actually, and unexpectedly. Well, we were in the hospital when he passed away. So we were kind of at the time, I mean, obviously his age, he wasn't supposed to pass at the time he did, but, there was certain stuff. I think he probably had cancer at the time. But what kind of got me through that experience was um, because obviously when it happened and the weeks following, my thoughts was consumed with that, with his death, the moments leading up to it, and everything like that. And it really truly wasn't. I didn't get any type of relief until I understood that it had happened to other people. And it wasn't like it took away the pain completely, but that was my first glimpse of a little bit of, there is hope after this, to where maybe my life will have some type of normal, you know some type of going back to some equilibrium, I guess you could say, to where, once I understood that I wasn't the only person that has ever lost their father, because obviously every person that's ever lived or will live will lose their dad, or their parents and things like that, and loss is inevitable. But at the same time, that little bit of perspective kind of was what started getting me out of the hole that I was in. And then obviously it still took time. I had dreams about him for a whole year, and that's how I knew that, because every dream was the same. I would always see him. I would always be surprised that he was alive. And then I couldn't speak. I could only cry, and I could only hug him. And it was funny because it was always a different environment, or he would say something different, but my reaction was always the same. I would always just see him, be surprised, start crying, and then hug him. And it wasn't until a year after that I stopped having those dreams that I realized that my brain had finally really adjusted to, my new reality, and really understood that, really, just accepted that he was gone, and it wasn't like something that was still, not like a question in the back of my mind, but something that, obviously that my brain had caught up to the rest of what was going on. And so I think that's, when we do actually deal with problems that are that significant, I think it's just a cycle of understanding where we're at, and then just continue to find those kind of small wins, so to speak. They're not really wins, but I would say they're more so just seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. As long as we can still see that light, and just realize that yes, there are going to be relapses, because there's are still, it's been now, he passed away in 2014, so it's been quite some time. And so, but there is still now times, or certain memories that might come up that brings me down a little bit. But at the same time, obviously not as much as it did back when it first happened. And like I said, it's just understanding that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that there are relapses, but it all kind of falls in a cycle, and nothing is ever permanent. Nothing is ever going to stay the same. And so as long as you keep being resilient and kind of pushing through it, then you'll end up getting to a better space.
Is it important for, let's say, is it important for men to be able to express their emotions when it does relapse? Like, let's say, but not live there for too long.
Yeah, absolutely. I I I used to be, like, when I was, it's weird because I have times in my life where I'm either angry, or there's been times in my life where I've been anxious, or there's been times in my life where I've been stressed out. And to where, I've had periods of that, and then I and transfer over to something different. And then now I feel like I'm in a good space, because I realize that what it really comes down to is that if there is something that is either bothering you, or bringing you down, or making you anxious, or making you stressed out, it needs to be addressed in some manner. And maybe that doesn't mean that every minute of your day you're addressing it, but it does mean that if it comes up and it shows its face, like right in your face, then address it enough to where then it goes back to where it was, and then you're able to perform, normally and stuff like that. So, and I'll talk a little bit about this in my book, to where if an emotion comes up, I definitely don't try to ignore it. I do try to embrace that emotion at the time. So if I do have a feeling of, sadness, or something like that, because I'm remembering my dad, I don't try to shoo it off and say, no, I don't want to be sad right now. I let myself embrace that moment, and then if I cry a little bit, then I cry a little bit, and then a couple minutes later, then I wipe my tears off, and then I continue on. And really, I do think that that's where it comes down to, because I think a lot of times, as men, or whoever, I mean, not saying that women don't go through this too, because they definitely do. But at the same time, there's times where we want to be tough, and we want to act like that. We can't show any emotion because it's weakness, and it's not necessarily true. The weakness isn't an emotion. Weakness would be if we let our emotions turn it into an unhealthy manifestation, or something like that, to where we're not taking control, taking back control of ourselves. Once that emotion subsides, we definitely want to meet it on head on. So truly, I do think that's where it's most important, is don't ignore your emotions. They're there for a reason, especially because it kind of gauges where you're at in life. And then but I'll also say, don't try to hold on to it for too long, because there are times where we kind of want to soak in our own sadness, so to speak, because there's also, there's a little bit of comfort in that. You're like, oh, I'm sad, so I get to be sad, and whatever it might be, and that's, in a weird way, that's comforting. But you have to realize that, just like any mature person would, nothing in life is permanent. So we can't just sit there and act like we can just sit in our pajamas all day and watch Netflix all day, and either drink or whatever our kind of self medicine is, so to speak. And we got to move on, and kind of pursue our life goals, which is truly what should be driving us.
Yeah, that's cool. It reminds me of a saying that I heard. I'm a Leafs fan, Toronto. So when the Leafs were playing the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs this year, and they won, finally they got past the first
Okay.
round.
Yeah.
Took them 19 years, but it was
Yeah.
something that the John Cooper, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, said. He goes, I don't let my players live their highs too high and their lows too low. So I really like that, like kind of staying in that middle. Like, yeah, you can feel you're low, but not too, don't go too low. Don't stay there for too
Yeah.
long. Don't go too high when you're up at your high, and
Yeah.
don't let stay there too long. Stay in that middle. Um,
Yeah. Well, there's definitely some truth in that, because I do, you know, because I mean, I've never, I wouldn't know for sure, because I've never really been addicted to drugs or anything like that. But I do think that that's where a lot of depression comes from, with people who get too high, and obviously bipolarism and stuff like that. Once you feel that euphoric feeling of whatever you're going through, any dip below that is kind of depressing, because you're like, man, I just went through the best high of my life. Whether that's a healthy obsession of sports or anything like that, or if it's happens to be with drugs or alcohol. But that euphoric feeling is very hard to come down from. And actually, I remember even um, I remember times in my college, career, where, not career, but when I was in college, and I remember just being like happy because I'm out having a good time with my friends and drinking. And then, the hangover is a little worse the next day, because nothing's going on, and you're just like back to normal life. And then you're actually dip a little lower than what I would have been if I was just not going out the night before. So it's that weird kind of relationship between, you really don't know how happy you are until you don't have whatever made you happy, and then it dips you a little lower than you probably would have gone before. So being in that nice happy medium is definitely a nice place to be.
yeah. There's another thing that I wanted to talk to you about still with the same topic that I
Mhm.
heard on the podcast with the Femme Ninja podcast.
Yeah.
You were talking about fear. And fear is a huge factor with a lot of people. It does weird things to people in their lives.
Yeah.
Most of the people out there that haven't experienced fear, it paralyzes them. It makes them stop doing what they're doing. How important do you see fear coming from a military special forces background? How important is fear in somebody's life?
I'd say, I mean, very important actually. And I'm not saying, fear as in like, because, phobia is a little bit different, and I'm not a expert in phobias or anything like that. But I do think that fear itself is kind of another, what's the word? I'm trying to think of a nice metaphor for that. Fear is really just another obstacle to get over for that personal development. And and I don't know if I actually talked about this on her podcast. I think maybe I did. I do think that, for certain individuals, it is good to kind of, go past your boundaries, and your kind of comfort zone when it comes to certain fears and things like that. Now, obviously, like I said, there is some pretty severe phobias out there that, cripple a person down to where they might have it, anxiety attacks or something like that. And so obviously that type of overcoming a fear would be a little bit more deliberate and methodical, and probably taking smaller steps. But at the same time, all of that is important to do, to where, and the easiest one to talk about is public speaking. So, a lot of people, they get they're very fearful of public speaking, and it almost like, scares them to death to think about standing up in front of people and having a speech or whatever it might be. Uh, but, having that going back to perspective, having that perspective of knowing that, one, it's just talking, and those people in front of you are just people just like you, and me, and anybody else. And so I think, that helps for overcoming fear, is just having that perspective of what that fear really is, and then being able to get over it, and based off perspective and other things. But I think fear is what drives us to either, one, do better, hopefully. Now, obviously, it can manifest just like anything else in an unhealthy way. But I do think that if you look at it from a perspective of self-development and personal development, that fear is a good motivator for getting you to higher places than you would have never reached before. Because I definitely, that's one thing the military was very good at, was putting me in situations where I was uncomfortable. And like I said, I would have never put myself in those situations otherwise, not voluntarily anyway. But being pushed kind of into it, thrown into the fire, so to speak, I was able to come out the other side with a lot more, you know, uh, I had learned a lot more about myself, and then understood that I had reached a level of, personal development that I wouldn't have reached otherwise.
Do you think it's important to take time, just like a pause in between putting yourself into the next fearful situation? Just
Oh
to,
yeah, yeah. No, I definitely wouldn't continuously put myself in that heightened state, because one, it's the same thing, going back to the personal training aspect of it. We want to put our body through stress, and then we want it to recover. So in the, physical, part of that is, obviously, when you do a workout with certain muscle groups, you want to rest those muscle groups for, the amount of time needed to fully recover, to then go back in and stress them out again. So the same thing is the same with the mental aspect of it. You don't ever want to be in a constant state of stress, because your body doesn't do well with that. And once you start in the decline, and you're still within that stressful state, you're just going to continue to decline. And then a lot of like stuff happens to your body, obviously. And so that's why, when it comes to, you got to treat it just like you would any type of physical training. So your mental training is the same as physical training, to where you want to stress your body and have a little bit of growth. And then you want to have a little bit of recovery time, so that your body repairs itself. You're able to really reflect on that training event, so to speak. And then you hit it again next time. And then from there, it's kind of like a constant, plateau of, not plateau, but a constant stepping stones of reaching a higher level and a higher level and a higher level. But you do have to have that rest and recovery in between, because without it, you're just going to continue to put yourself in a state of decay, so to speak.
Mhm. Um, one of my favorite books that I've read this year so far has been Hard Times Built Hard Time Hard Times Built Soft Men or something like that. I can't remember the name of the
Mm-hmm.
book. It was one of my it's one of my favorite books, and it got me into really identifying this next segment that I want to talk about. It's finding your
Mm-hmm.
purpose.
Yeah.
And to me, finding your purpose is one of the two biggest pillars that I believe that makes a man a man.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help somebody identify their purpose?
Yeah, so that that's actually that's a process to where it goes back to alignment. It goes back to kind of understanding yourself as you are right now. And then, like I said, aligning all that to what could be, blatantly obvious, or, maybe it's a little bit more subtle. But it's more so just it's a it's kind of this, well, what's the word, it's kind of this relationship between who you are and then what's out there, and really, like, what's that problem that's out there that really needs fixing. And for a lot of people that could be, and it doesn't always have to be, a grand, heroic type of purpose, so to speak. For people who like to build things, or they're good with their hands, blue collar professions that fix things, repairmen, things of that nature, that is absolutely can be a purpose, because obviously that does good as well. People have these problems, and go through this type of stuff. So like I said, it doesn't have to be this grand purpose of movie proportions, to where you have this heroic being who then overcomes adversity to fulfill purpose. It can be, just something that you enjoy doing that ends up helping out others. And I do think that, like I said, it starts with understanding who you are as a person right now, and then really and then finding, what you're interested in, your hobbies, what you're good at, what you're limited at, and then kind of putting that all together, and then really solidifying that life goal that you have, which is probably going to come from an interest. Obviously, it's just whatever you feel like you're interested in and gives you some type of enjoyment and happiness, and then just aligning everything that we found about you as a person, and setting up the stepping stones to reach that potential. And it could be and that's and really comes, it's very similar to how we were as going from high school to college, and that life transition of, like, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? And for that, everybody's looking for a profession. But actually, with purpose, it's probably a little bit more than that, because it definitely doesn't have to be a profession either. It can be a hobby, it could be a side job, it could be anything. But as long as it's some type of fulfilling purpose that gives you satisfaction, and also ideally helping out other people, that's really what it comes down to.
Do you think the education system should shift from finding a quote unquote job to identifying the person's purpose and aligning the courses accordingly to create better, more rounded
Yeah. Well,
individuals?
yeah, I think the education system in our society should be shifted to where we enable and empower children to find their own path, so to speak. Now, that doesn't mean allow them to just go off and do whatever they want to, because children need guidance. But at the same time, it's about understanding that there's more to life than just a 9 to 5 job, and the daily grind and things of that nature, which is important. But it's only important because you're creating a life that can sustain you and your family. And truly, purpose, it can be the same thing, but also it has, and that's the thing too, your purpose might be to provide for your family, and sustainability for yourself and your family, and that's fine too. And if that's your purpose, then we'll find every single way to get you there. But going back to the education system, I mean, I do think there should be a lot of revamping in that. I think but for the most part, I think, especially about adolescence and things of that nature, and even in this process, finding yourself is a journey, and it doesn't need to look the same for everybody. It doesn't need to follow the same steps. And honestly, it could be years before it actually all comes together. Because I know for myself, it's taken me quite a bit of time to get to the point where I'm at now, to where I'm really understanding, my place in the world, and where I fit in. Because I was trying to fit myself, we'll say, I was trying to fit myself into a round hole, so to speak, pegging around a square peg in a round hole. And I realized that I wasn't getting there because, whatever the reasons were. And so I decided to look at it from a different point of view. And then that's why I'm positioning myself where I'm at now, because I can still have an influence on what I wanted to do, but just in a different perspective. And that's truly where it comes down to, is, just knowing who we are, knowing where we want to go, and then just finding a way to get there.
It's interesting that you said that, because I'm nearing the 50% mark in life. And I'm still trying to figure out, I'm still trying to figure that out. It's almost like
Yeah.
a lifelong journey.
Oh
Are
yeah.
there any steps, any tips, any tricks that you can uh, not just help me, but help other men that are, in that mid fifth or late 40s, early 50s, still trying to figure out, where do you fit in this whole grand scheme of this game that we call life?
Yeah. I think the first portion of that is gaining perspective. So whether that's perspective of the world itself, or maybe perspective of yourself, because I talk about a little bit the book, to where there's sometimes we don't completely have a good understanding of ourselves, or the understanding that we have is a little distorted, because we want to have this, image, almost like a picture perfect image of ourselves, so to speak, especially when it comes to maybe our profession, or whatever it might be. But having that perspective of like truly understanding things as they are. And like I said, when it came down to my situation, I just didn't have the skill sets that those particular, or that industry wanted, because my background's not really analytical. I can do, I definitely can do, analytical work, but it wasn't specific to that subject matter. So obviously, I had to adapt. And so that's the second portion of it, is really being able to adapt to situations, and being able to not go through change, but create change based off yourself, and what's actually there. And so really it's more so, trying to figure out a good way to put it, because really it's about, well, it's problem solving. So we'll go back to that. It's problem solving. It's understand that sometimes not every problem has a conventional solution, and that sometimes you have to be unconventional in the solutions that you to apply to a problem. Because the grand example of things now is duct tape. Like duct tape can go on everything, and so you kind of have to, I wouldn't say that simplistic of a mindset, but at the same time, knowing that, hey, just doing it and start creating solutions to the problem, and then working it out for there, because it might not solve it right then and there. It might be a continuous process, and that's fine too, because just like all the songs in the world that talk about it, and kind of quotes, life isn't really about the destination. It is about the journey. And because, once we're on our deathbed and we're there, we're like, all right, well, this was the journey. Sorry, this wasn't this is the destination. I'm here on my deathbed. And then, that's not what it is. It's about the journey and the life you actually lived while getting there. And I do think that the best way to do that, and the best way to find your purpose, is always striving for that purpose. And it will change, because like I said, when I was in the military, my purpose was different. It was similar, but it's different to what it is now. And it's all in that realm. And so that's where that alignment piece comes in, is because I have I have taken what I learned in the military and what my purpose was there, and then kind of shifted it to what it is now, which is more towards, helping people, on their life journey, and being able to protect themselves, to where, in the military, it was more so, protecting, doing stuff that would protect individuals without their kind of involvement, so to speak. So I was kind of doing the work for them. And so now I'm kind of shifting. I'm like, hey, I'll help you get there, but I definitely can't do the work for you, because one, we're probably going to be remote, and, I'm not physically there. But two, I do think that everybody should take responsibility for kind of their own life, because I don't think that anybody should be dependent on anybody else. And it's definitely about, just getting those people there in a position where they can have that independence and ability to take care of themselves.
Your upcoming book, and you've touched up on this quite a bit throughout the
Mhm.
podcast, Fight for Your Best Life. You talk about all this stuff. I want to know, one, when is it coming out? Because I want to read
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And two, what are some of the biggest tips that you can give the listener or the viewer to look out for when they're reading this book?
Mhm. So yeah, so the book, hopefully, I'm going through production right now, and so we're actually doing a back and forth with the cover design. I'm hoping the book will be out by September at the latest. I don't want it to go anywhere past that, but I'll definitely let you know when it comes out. Well, when I have a launch date for sure. And then when it comes to the book itself, uh, because the title and the best summarizes the title itself is two meanings. So one, fight for your life is the that phrase that's in there, and that's the self-defense portion. So at its core, it is definitely a self-defense book, but also it is a self-development book. So that's why fight for your best life is in there, because it goes a little beyond the self-defense portion and then kind of gets a little bit deeper into the kind of personal development type, and really everything we talked about obviously is kind of involved in the book. So really that's how I would tell people, if they're going to read the book, to look at it is, yes, you will learn tangible and real self-defense type of concepts, but you'll also learn a lot about yourself, because if you're going through the exercises in the book, you'll start to understand yourself in a more intimate way, so to speak, and then be able to use that for your self-defense, and then beyond that, be able to use that in your personal life or your professional life, or whatever that might be. But that's what I would say for people who want to read the book. You will learn self-defense kind of concepts, but you'll also hopefully learn about yourself, and that's why I titled the book the way that I did.
Very cool. Very cool. I can't wait for it to come out. Can't wait to get my hands on it and start reading it. I
Yeah.
love these books. Uh, we're coming up close to the end of the show, and these are the 10 questions that I ask all my guests.
Mhm.
I just want to get your perspective on these 10 topics.
Okay.
With the increase in people suffering from depression from the past 3 years that we've been living through, what would be the one thing that you could tell them to keep their hopes up?
One, that you're not alone. uh it's like I said, when getting out of kind of my slump that I was in when my father passed, knowing that other people had gone through it too, kind of like I said, it was that little light that I was able to start to see. So really, when it comes down to it, yeah, you're not alone in that at all. There's other people that are fighting just along with you, and then there's other people that can help you out that maybe are not going through that, but at the same time, they're definitely willing to help you out in that aspect.
What's the one thing that you do daily that amplifies your ability to stay focused?
uh, really think about what's important in my life. And right now it's my family. So any point in time, if I'm having a day to where I feel off, or things aren't going quite right, or whatever the situation might be, I immediately go back to what's important to me, which is my family, and then just kind of attach myself to that, and then from there everything can everything builds off of that, so to speak. So it's realigning myself back to what is important to me.
Very cool. If you could pick up the phone right now and call yourself at 20 years old, what will you tell yourself?
Mm. Don't take life too seriously. Yeah,
Hmm.
I would say, there's a lot of places in our life that we have to be serious, and we have to really, look at it, or take it seriously, and kind of not do the right things, but definitely, confront it in the right way. But especially at 20 years old, uh, yeah, I'd say don't take life too seriously. Just enjoy what you got going on.
Looking back, would you change anything?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, when I was, like I said, when I was in high school and college, I think I would have not as cared much about, going outside the boundaries of, the societal norms and things like that. I do think, I wasn't a goody two shoes by any means, but at the same time, I did try to not, I try to follow the rules as best I could. So yeah, if I could go back in time, I definitely would be a little bit more of a rule breaker, so to speak.
What's more important to a man, his word or his purpose?
Hmm. I would say his word for, you mean like his word as in like honesty, or are you saying a word as in,
His word, as in, I tell you I'm going to do something and I go do it, and if I don't do
yeah,
it, then I don't keep my word.
yeah, no, I'd say honesty is big, just because that is, if I can't trust you and uh, in any capacity, then I'm just doubting anything that you ever do. So really, it comes down to, if I can trust you and anything you say to me, I can believe it, then I think that's the foundation to any relationship, anything going forward. So I definitely do think that honesty is key when it comes to a lot of stuff.
What scares you?
Hmm. I guess the biggest thing I would say overall, kind of not regret, but that feeling of regret you get when you don't have the ability to then take action on a particular situation. So with that being said, I would say that what fears me is being in a situation and not acting on it, and then obviously regretting it later. So I'd say regret is probably one of my biggest fears.
Where do you see Fight for Your Best Life in the next 5 years?
Hopefully, uh, other than on the shelves of people's bookshelves, I'd say, hopefully there is more of a following of individuals who do want to better their life, and not only that, but society as a whole, because this is truly, like we were going back with purpose. This is truly the reason behind it is that we're not just doing better for ourselves, but we're also doing better for the others around us. And I think that's really what I want the book to do is just it's not going to fix everything, obviously, but hopefully there's a pocket of society that I'm making a little bit better.
How about you personally? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Uh, Hopefully spending as much time as I can with my family. I got she's almost two right now and one on the way, and I'm sure we're going to have another. And I just want to have the ability to enjoy the time when they're growing up because I know there's going to be a time when they want to fly the nest and kind of live their own life. So I just want to kind of enjoy what I have when I have it.
Where can people find more about you?
Yeah, so my website, well, mindshieldandspear.com is where you're going to find a lot of the stuff about what's developing with the business itself. But also, I do have a link to my LinkedIn page, and then I'll be doing stuff up there. And then also, I do have a Facebook page for the book itself, and hopefully that turns into a community of people sharing best practices and stuff. Because I want to be hands off with the Facebook page and really allow the community to kind of support each other. So I'd say those are the best three spots to kind of figure out what's coming next.
Cool. And we will post the links to all those three areas that you said, so people can have easy access to you and your content.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. Any final thoughts?
Uh, no, I would just say, I do believe that we have this life for a reason, and so it doesn't matter what that reason is or what that purpose is, no matter how big it seems or how small. Just kind of, every day should be an opportunity to pursue something. So I'd say, pursue what you can, and then kind of leave it out on the field, so to speak. Give it your best shot.
John, thank you so much for coming on the show. I can't wait for your book, Fight for Your Best Life, to come out on at least Amazon so I can order it and start
Yeah,
reading it. I love, I'm hoping that you have some of your military stories in there because I love reading about
yeah,
military stories.
yeah.
Um, And it's always great to have a vet come onto the show and share your perspective on life and how to move forward in life, because it's a very unique aspect and very unique way of looking at life.
Yeah.
Not most of us, we don't see the life threatening, bad guy on the other side that's has a gun pointed to us, and we think we do, but we have no idea what that's all about. So to have your
Yeah.
perspective is really deep. So thank you for that, and thank you for your service again. I really
Oh, no
do,
problem.
I really
Yeah,
do
no problem.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And well, yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to, kind of talk about those experiences. And like I said, there are far greater people that have had better experiences that I have, and more extravagant stories. But at the same time, I do believe that there is, that commonality of military experience, and, just a unique perspective on the topic.
Yeah. Going through hard times is just a test. What you need to know is that when you get out of whatever you're going through, you will be stronger than ever before, and you don't need to go through it alone. Always know that you are not alone. Stay tuned for more real people with amazing stories that are just like yours. Until then, to everyone out there listening, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you may be in this crazy world. Hey guys, John from Resilient Reboot Productions and the Fitness Oracle. I just wanted to thank you for watching this episode, and I really do hope that you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, and share this episode if you are watching this on YouTube or on Rumble. If you are listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker FM, or whatever streaming service that you may be using, please give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, as it will help us reach out to more people that are suffering from mental health issues. Now, if you haven't done so already, I am offering access to a free weekly newsletter that we send out every Sunday, and it's jam-packed with podcasting tips and health and wellness tips to keep you balanced in the podcasting and content creating space. So if you haven't done so already, sign up to this free newsletter. It's totally free, and it also gives you access to the Fitness Oracle private community in Mighty Networks, where we talk about this episode. We talk about how you have implemented these lessons that you've picked up in your life and how it's impacted your life. And we are working on a lot of great other programs and support systems for you guys to be able to access. So if you haven't done so already, sign up to the newsletter, and I'll see you guys on the inside.